is The Furnace with John Burton.
All right, so I believe this may be an incredibly important podcast for you to listen to, because I'm going to address an issue. I'm going to ask a question that's going to deal with every one of us, and it's going to deal with our motive. Here's the question. Why are you in ministry, or why do you minister? Okay, now before you check off thinking you're not in full-time ministry, I'm not only talking about those in full-time ministry, though they are included in this. I'm talking to everybody. Why do you post what you do on Facebook? Why do you argue specific theological points? Pastors, why are you running your church the way that you are? The question is why? Why are you doing it? And I believe this is a most important question, because this is going to reveal motive, and I believe if we answer honestly, which that's going to be tough, I think for a lot of us, if we answer honestly, it will wildly change the direction of our ministry, but even more than that, it will introduce a lot of peace into our lives, okay? And so the question, why do you do it? Let me just start with an example. For me, I write, and I write. I've written 10 books. I write, on my own website. I'm going to write more today. I've written for Charisma Magazine for years, and hundreds of articles there, and the Christian Examiner, and just on and on, just different stuff. So I write. The question is why? All right, this is an important question for me. Super important. And you're going to understand why this is so critical that we break this down, and it's going to set you free, I believe. If I am writing because the impact that God has had on my life in specific areas, specific topics, and I bring those information into written form, if I'm doing that so other people can also experience life and freedom and breakthrough, or I can, as I so often do, I can warn people about belief systems, theologies, ideas that will derail them or will even cost them their eternity. So if my motive is to cause life to come into people, then it's great. It's free. It's alive. But if my motive, now understand, you don't only have to have one motive. If my motive becomes compromised or tainted because of, let's say, pride, all right? So I write a lot, and I've written books, and my picture's on the back of the books, and people thank me for writing the books or the articles or whatever. And I'm not saying being appreciative is wrong, I'm not saying that, but if it's pride, if now I'm doing it to be known, if I'm doing it to receive accolades, if I'm doing it because my identity, and this one right here is going to be a common thread through all of these. If I do it because my identity is wrapped up in those accolades and wrapped up in my abilities and wrapped up in popularity or whatever, then I am way off course. And, you talk about a lot of things that would disqualify someone from ministry, and we talk about falling into sexual sin or financial indiscretion or whatever. I believe that if we allow pride to overtake our lives, I'm not talking about the daily struggle and crucifying the flesh. I'm not talking about those daily battles. I'm talking about where we're just walking in pride, and our identity is made up by our ministry. We got to check out. We need to go on sabbatical. If that's me, I need to stop writing for a while. And so that, what if I wasn't able to write anymore? Or what if people no longer wanted to read my books, or my articles were no longer being read, or whatever? What if? Would I crash as an individual? Would I? Would my identity, my purpose for living, my all of that, Would it be shot down? Would I be depressed? Would I be sad? Would I be, and I'm not saying you can't ever be sad. I'm not saying that. But you understand what I'm saying. Like eternally sad, like forever. You're just busted up forever. Because now I can't write anymore. Maybe, itinerant ministry and traveling to churches and no one wants to book me anymore. And now am I just devastated because of that? Well, if that's the case, then I need to take a break. Because it's not about me. It's not about my personal satisfaction. And that's what we see in a lot of these ministers who are legitimately falling. And they cannot imagine themselves not getting back behind that pulpit. And they are frustrated, and they're sad, and they don't know what to do, and they don't take the time away that they need to take. You know what I'm saying? And why? Because their identity is defined not by God and who they are in God, but rather by what they do, by their ministry, by what makes them happy, what brings them personal fulfillment and all that. All right, so that, that's me, or for example, planting churches, which was a big part of my life. When we moved here to Branson, Missouri, I thought we might maybe start a church, maybe. And the grace wasn't there. And so if my identity was wrapped up in my ability to be in front of people, leading a church, being the main dude, being the leader, all that, which I enjoy that to an extent. There's some of it I don't enjoy, there's some of it I do. And enjoying things, by the way, is not bad. There's nothing wrong with enjoying this stuff. There's nothing bad with coming alive when you're ministering, when you're touching lives. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, we should come alive. We should enjoy that process. We should enjoy ministering. But if my identity is wrapped up in that, and then I crash and burn because I'm not leading a church anymore, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong. Doesn't mean I'm evil. It means there's something wrong. There's a heart issue. I need ministry. Instead of ministering, I need ministry. I need that part of my heart touched. So for me personally, while I enjoy the things that I'm doing, it's really easy for me to let things go. When we moved here to Branson and I didn't start a church, it was easy for me to let that go. Easy. And so that's a big part of this question. Why do I minister? I tell you, it's not to make money. I'll tell you that. I find it hilarious that I'll get a lot of comments on articles that I write or whatever, and people say that I'm just in it for the money. I'm just in writing for these publications for the money or whatever. It's so absolutely hilarious. I don't receive any money at all, not $1 from any of my writings except the books that I write, and that income just through book sales is incredibly limited, like big time. And I heard about a Christian author who he makes about $500,000 a year through his book sales, and I don't make that, and I'll make, just because I don't market my books. I chose not to go with a publisher. I self-publish. I chose to do all that so I would simply be able to write and get the message out there and not have to worry about all the hoops, and there's a lot of hoops to jump through. A Christian publisher, a well-known publisher, offered to publish one of my books and one of my wife's books, and we turned them down just because we didn't want to jump through all those hoops. And so when I write, it's just because it's burning in my spirit and I just want to get it out there. And maybe somebody 50 or 80 or 100 years from now or next week or whatever, they pick it up and they are impacted and their lives are changed forever. That's why I want to write books. But I don't do it for the money. So the books that I write, I don't know the numbers. My wife handles all of that. But I think just on a month to month, I'm just making a few $100 a month on all 10 of my books. And I know I could do way better than that. If I marketed and if I did all sorts of things, I'm just not interested in doing that most of the time. Every now and then I'll market it a little bit, but more often than not, I'm giving away free versions of my books. You know, I'll run some sort of thing online. Y'all can have this book for free for the next 24 hours or whatever. I do that, you know. And so my income through book sales, whatever the number is, I shouldn't give you a number. I always give numbers and statistics and things, and I'm never right because I'm trying to remember, going based on memory. But I think it's just $200-300 a month. Now, if I travel or when I travel and I speak and I have a book table out, then it's easy for me to bring in, you know, $500 on the low end or $2,000 on the high end for book sales at a special event, and so that happens. But by and large, it's not where I don't do it for the money, not at all. And would I ever say yes to a Christian publisher? I could, if it made sense and God says the message is going to get out there more efficiently, and I would. But it's not that big of a deal. The whole point is my motive isn't making money. You know, so again, I have to have all of these heart checks. And so if writing is definitely a ministry of mine. Now, guys, this is so important because there are so many people out there that are getting all bent out of shape when they can't minister the way that they feel God wants them to. You got to get this. This is critical. I love to write. I'm called to write. I'm wired to write. I enjoy writing. And I enjoy speaking. I enjoy preaching. I enjoy all of that. If all of that was eliminated from me, all of it, I would still be so alive. Would I miss it? Yeah, probably. I mean, but it's okay. Like, for example, I don't speak. I don't preach. I'll do these podcasts. And occasionally I'll travel and preach. But I used to preach 2, 3, 4 times a week for years and years and years and years. And now I don't. I don't preach hardly ever. And would I love to do it? Sure. But I'm full of life and peace and joy. Everything's awesome. And so if all of that was taken away and the writing was taken away and the preaching fully taken away and all of that taken away, I would still be full of joy. So those of you that get all sad about your life because the pastor won't let you prophesy in church, or he won't acknowledge you as a leader, or you can't lead a small group, or you can't preach a message, or whatever, get over yourself. Stop it. Oh my gosh. It's ridiculous. Grow up. It's ridiculous. There are grown adults all over the place that are whining and crying and pointing fingers and accusing because their pastor won't let them prophesy or their pastor won't let them preach. Get over yourself. It's the dumbest thing to get upset about. Dumb. You gotta be kidding me. It's foolishness. If your joy and your identity is wrapped up in your ability to be affirmed, to be affirmed in ministry, it's asinine. Can I say it? I did. It's ridiculous. Ministry is not about you and your fulfillment. Ministry is about you doing what other people need you to do. And if your pastor does not need you to prophesy, guess what? You're off the hook. It's all good. You don't need to do it. But again, the topic of this podcast is why? All of you Facebook people out there, why? Why do you, in your theological debates on Facebook, do you get mean and nasty and argumentative and throw fits and throw tantrums and call names and accuse over a theological point that you hold to that someone else disagrees with? Why? Why? Come on. You're a big baby. Stop it. You can still talk about the stuff that you value. You can be adamant and bold and passionate, absolutely. But why do you kick in? And all of you know what I'm talking about. You see it all the time. Why do you kick into this mean-spirited accusation, divisive kind of thing? Why do you do that? Why do you get bent out of shape? Why do you sever relationships? Why do you elevate yourself over others in the debate? Why do you do that? I'm not saying you can't be passionate. I'm not saying you shouldn't be even convinced in your position, but my point is, on an emotional level, what's your issue? What's your problem? Why? Why do you do it? Why? And I can go on the flip side too. Let's go from the completely opposite direction. Why don't some of you boldly preach and reveal truth? Why? Why? What's your motive? If it's because you don't want to cause problems, or you don't want people to be upset, or you don't like confrontation, that's a problem. It's a problem. It really is. If you shrink back because that confrontation thing bothers you, you have a problem. Because your silence very well may cause other people to miss heaven, or it may cause other people to not experience the life God's called them to. Why? But again, the question is why? What is your motive? Is it because you don't want to deal with the issues that might come with you standing for truth? Why? Pastors, why? Why do you start with the question, what? What are you called to? And then why do you do what you do? Think about this. For me, I am not called to be a pastor. That's not my call. It's not to be a pastor. Meaning I don't have the pastoral office. I don't have that. My mercy gift is like 0. Right? And I love to pray, and I have vision. I'm a vision caster. I love to see. I love to pursue transformation regionally. So there's a lot of that. The prophetic, apostolic. I love that. I love it. And I'm at the point in my life now where I do not want to do all this other stuff to try to convince people to follow me as a quote unquote church leader. So what I'm saying is, I don't want to, if I had a quote unquote a church, it would be prayer based, it'd be prophetic, it would be revival focused. But I wouldn't want to do all this other stuff like small groups and counseling and potlucks and I'm not saying I would never ever do any of that ever for any reason, but my heart's not there. So the question that I'm presenting is, pastors, if you have a vision, let's say you have a vision for night and day prayer, why are you adding all this other stuff into it? Is it so? What's your motive? Is it so people will fill the seats? Why do you preach on the things that you do? Is it because you really believe in this stuff, or is it because you want people to give more in the church? Why do you want them to give more in the church? Is it because you're ministering to them, or is it because you want more in the church? Again, why? Why do you preach these things? If, let's say, you're called, your heart is evangelism, you're called outreach. Why are you adding all of this other stuff into the mix? And the obvious answer is, well, because I need people, and I need the seats to be filled, and I need a certain amount of money to come in so I can fulfill the evangelism thing. I have trouble with that. What if your vision is children's ministry? Well, I love, there's some of these urban ministries out there, and they get a truck and they go out and they minister to the kids in the tougher parts of town or whatever, and they're giving them free snow cones and ice cream and presenting the gospel. That is awesome. But then, would it make sense to try to do all sorts of other things to get mom and dad and everybody else to kick into a typical church when the pastor doesn't have the heart or the gifting to lead a typical church? You understand what I'm saying? So the point I'm making is there's a precise focus, and I believe if we're not careful, I'm not saying every time this happens, but if we're not careful, we can violate that calling and violate that focus by adding all this other stuff in, and then our motives become questioned. Is it just because, a lot of pastors are pastoring the way that they are, and they're not hitting the tough subjects because they don't want to lose people, and they don't want to lose money. And they know if they lose people and they lose money, then they're going to lose their salary, and they're going to lose their staff, and they're going to lose their reputation. So they're not ministering really because of what God's putting in their heart mostly. They're ministering to keep people and money in the church. And it's true. I don't care what you tell me. It's true. And I'm not even saying all these pastors are evil, bad people. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's a lot of pressure, and they don't necessarily know how to respond. Well, what do I do if I'm called to just do this one thing and most of the people leave as I focus on that one thing and they take their money with them? And what do I do? Well, you just do that one thing with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people, and that's okay. Go get a job somewhere. But again, why? Why do you do it? Why? And so, think about this. I think this is a great discussion point. You know, I have to, and I think all of us, I have to check my heart all the time. Why am I doing it? Why do I post what I post? Why do I write what I write? Why do I minister the way that I minister? And then this goes off into all other areas of life too. Why do I act the way I do as a husband or as a father? Why? Why do I do all of this? And then I have to analyze that. And are my motives pure, or are they compromised? Because again, if all the ministry was taken away, would you still be full of life? I mean, legitimately full of life. Excited about what's coming next? Or because your identity is wrapped up in it, would you be devastated? That's the question. All right. Let's go ahead and get some conversation on this. I know I say this quite often. Those of you that are listening in Spotify or whatever, iTunes, you're not going to have an obvious place to kick into a conversation. If you're one of my Facebook friends, you can go find this on Facebook. You can go to my website and shoot me a comment there, just a contact form there. But I love to hear from you. I love to hear what you have to say. I appreciate it all the time when that happens. I try my best to get back to everybody. I don't always. I try, but I'm not always able to. But I do love to hear from you, so let me know what you have to say. All right? And there you have it. That's it. Talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to The Furnace with John Burton. You can access media, read articles, and partner with the ministry online at burton.tv. And by all means, share this podcast with those who are hungry for revival, reformation, and revolution.